Tonight, Canada welcomes the G7 here in Alberta with a focus on wars, global trade, and Donald Trump.
It really is a forum for leaders to discuss the most pressing news happening in the world.
Plus, 50 years after its creation, is the G7 still relevant?
Also tonight, airstrikes continue inside Iran and Israel as war intensifies. Formula One brings its global show to Montreal.
Honestly, kind of, teared up when I saw the Ferrari on the track.
Why you'll need to circle a different date for next year's race.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hannah-Mansing and Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault in Banff, Alberta.
Thanks for joining us. Against a backdrop of wars, military, and trade, world leaders are arriving here in Alberta for Canada's G7 summit for top-level meetings and those potentially crucial talks on the sidelines. Every country's agenda now complicated by escalating conflict in the Middle East, even as many economies are buckling under U.S. tariffs. So for a lot of these global players, some one-on-one time with Donald Trump is job one. Ashley Burke is leading our coverage tonight. So, Ashley, Prime Minister Mark Carney, in many ways, faces the same pressures as other leaders.
The same pressures and more, Adrian. He's going to be sitting down with Donald Trump on Monday morning. And as his first big test as host, he's also going to try and guard against some of the ugly surprises that have happened before. Before hosting a high-risk summit, the Prime Minister hosting low-risk talks. Mark Carney starting his day in Ottawa, meeting with one of his closest G7 allies.
It is a great pleasure, and I think entirely appropriate, that my first official bilateral in Canada with a head of government is with Prime Minister Starmer.
The UK and Canada agreeing to strengthen ties ahead of critical G7 talks.
The conflict with Israel and Iran is centerpiece, and this provides the opportunity to talk to our co-leaders about the fast-moving situation and to make our strong case together that there must be de-escalation of this conflict.
Carney then moved west to Alberta, where some of the most powerful leaders in the world are facing calls to use the G7 to de-escalate the conflict.
It really is a forum for leaders to discuss the most pressing news happening in the world, and this is going to be number one on the agenda.
Leaders arriving in Kananaskis also have their own agenda. For the first time, they're trying to address a threat from within. Countries, including Canada, all trying to broker deals with Donald Trump to get his tariffs lifted. Carney is meeting Trump Monday morning, hoping to advance those talks, but with Trump, nothing's certain.
All of a sudden, this can start moving in a way that perhaps we didn't see. So if on Sunday it looks like there's no agreement, Monday night can suddenly be an agreement. And if we think we made progress 2 weeks ago, well, 2 weeks later, we haven't got the agreement we want. So we're going to continue to grind away at it, but with a real sense of urgency.
So, Ashley, the last time Canada hosted the G7 summit, Trump was here as well. It ended in disarray. This time, Prime Minister Mark Carney has to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, Mark Carney is attempting to Trump-proof this event. He's not even going to try to get the G7 leaders to sign a communique. Instead, he's aiming to get them to sign shorter statements. And that's a move to try and avoid the disaster that we saw when Justin Trudeau hosted as Prime Minister, when Trump rescinded his support of the communique and he lashed out at Trudeau. So now they're trying to lower expectations.
All right, Ashley Burke, thank you.
So we're going to Canada. Last night was a tremendous success with a fantastic audience. It was supposed to rain. They gave it a 100.
As Donald Trump was about to take off for Alberta, he was asked about making trade deals here at the G7, but he preferred to talk about the festivities surrounding his military parade on Saturday. Remember, even though Trump is the one who has stirred the pot and set the agenda for so many others, the U.S. president has political needs of his own. Washington correspondent Katie Simpson is here with us picking up that part of the story. So, Katie, so many of the world leaders want something from Donald Trump. But what is it that Trump wants out of this meeting?
Well, here's the thing. This is going to be a flashpoint for Donald Trump because he's going to be confronted by so many of the things he said he would achieve as president, but they haven't really worked out the way he said they would. You know, he launched his global trade war and saying he'd cut all these deals with all these countries, Canada included. And so far, the only thing he has to show is a possible framework for a deal with the UK. He also cast himself as a peacemaker. And if you look at the tensions that are getting worse in the Middle East, there's no end in sight to the war in Ukraine. Donald Trump had said he'd solve that war in a day once he became president. He's going to be confronted by that because, remember, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, he is at this conference. So again, it's going to be a difficult moment for Trump because so many people want something from him as he's trying to sort of have some wins of his own.
So is this a moment then where he wants a win as a type of distraction?
He needs one because he's under a lot of domestic pressure right now. He's facing a lot of criticism even for him. I know he's not a typical politician. Canadians know that as well. But after what happened in Los Angeles, his decision to call in the National Guard, to mobilize the Marines, it has motivated critics in ways that Americans haven't necessarily seen become this intense in recent months. And it created a sore sort of point of contrast for Trump. You know, you saw protests in every single state and thousands of people in the streets of major cities. And then you saw the lower than expected turnout for his military parade and birthday celebration. You saw thousands of people protesting against him. His supporters, people there for the military parade, it wasn't as big. So Trump right now is facing a lot of criticism, and something that he could point to and say, hey, look what I achieved would help him in this moment.
All right, Katie Simpson, good to see you.
Thanks.
We have more coverage from the G7 coming up in about 20 minutes, including a closer look at why the summit exists and whether it is still relevant. But for now, let's throw it back to Ian in Vancouver with today's other top stories. Ian?
Thanks, Adrian. And let's start with the escalating conflict in the Middle East. There have been more airstrikes today between Israel and Iran, and no indication that the intensity will ease. Our senior international correspondent, Margaret Evans, is in Jerusalem with the latest.
In Israel, a third night filled with the howl of air raid sirens, followed by incoming Iranian missiles and Israeli air defenses springing to life in the skies above Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and Haifa, where there was a direct hit. Iran answering Israel's assault on its nuclear capabilities and the top ranks of its military leadership. Assassinations that offer an echo of the way Israel dealt with the leadership of Iran's proxy militia, Hezbollah, in Lebanon. In a Sunday interview on Fox News, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was asked if regime change in Iran is one of his goals.
Could certainly be the result because the Iran regime is very weak.
He wouldn't comment, though, on widespread media reports that U.S. President Donald Trump vetoed an Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Earlier, Netanyahu visited the city of Bat Yam, which was hit by a missile the night before, killing at least 7 people and damaging city blocks. There was smoke everywhere, says a woman named Katya. I couldn't breathe. The door just flew off its hinges. Netanyahu accuses Iran of deliberately targeting civilians and that Tehran will pay a high price for it. There were also scenes of chaos and death in Iran. Here, a fuel depot near Tehran hit by an Israeli strike on Saturday night, burning for hours. The Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, says Iran is not trying to expand the war, but that more innocent lives are likely to be lost. Israel knows no boundaries, he says. They intrude wherever they want with America's permission. Donald Trump is still insisting that Iran and Israel can reach a deal, floating Vladimir Putin as a potential mediator.
Critics say there is profound confusion over Donald Trump's intentions and very little expectation that the international community is going to be able to bring much pressure to bear on the situation.
And Margaret, what have you seen since you arrived?
It's not easy to get to Israel or any of the surrounding countries, Ian. They've all closed their airspace for obvious reasons. The drive up felt empty. It feels empty in Jerusalem, and there's a real sense of fatigue. People have been dealing with the Gaza war for a long time, no end in sight, and now they have the prospect of a much wider impact and no off-road.
Margaret Evans reporting from Jerusalem tonight. And we have some breaking news this evening. Police have captured the suspect in the shooting deaths of a Minnesota state lawmaker and her husband. That ends an anxious two-day hunt for the man also suspected of shooting another politician and his wife. Sasha Petrusek looks at the anatomy of an intense statewide chase.
Minnesota's countryside teems with police descending on a black sedan. Its doors opened, its owner, double murder suspect Vance Bolter, his hat left in the dust.
There were items recovered for that car that are relevant that will be part of our investigation.
Bolter claims to be a security expert and has links to evangelical ministries. At the state capitol, flowers and cards pile up, remembering its speaker, Democrat Melissa Hortman, and her husband Mark, victims of what Minnesota's governor calls a politically motivated assassination.
She was a true leader and loved her work, but was always so grounded and such a decent person.
Police say they found Bolter dressed as a police officer outside the Hortmans' Minneapolis area home. He fired at police and fled, triggering the manhunt. Bolter is also wanted for seriously wounding a Minnesota state senator and his wife earlier in the day at their home nearby. Lawmakers say increasingly they feel like targets.
It just feels like things are moving towards a climate of fear, a climate of alienation and othering and violence, frankly.
Evidence of that in a notebook police say they found in the suspect's car, listing almost 70 other lawmakers as targets, mostly Democrats, along with names of local abortion providers.
We are anxiously awaiting news of justice, and we will not rest until that happens.
Sasha Petrusek, CBC News, Washington.
In India, at least 2 people are dead after a bridge collapsed in a popular tourist area. Government officials say 32 people were injured when the iron bridge suddenly gave way over a rushing river about 100 kilometers from Mumbai. Several people were swept away in the waters. Emergency crews still searching for survivors. Days after the Air India plane crash, many families are still waiting to take possession of the remains of their loved ones. South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji shows us the pain, grief, and for some, hope.
Last rites as a family says goodbye to one of the victims of Air India Flight 171. The grief hard to bear. But for others, it's still an agonizing wait in a tent set up for mourning family members, steps from the hospital's morgue. The bodies of the plane crash victims are slowly being released after DNA tests confirm a match to surviving relatives. This family has been here for days.
It's very, like, how to explain, no any words with me.
This is Harshit. Pragnesh Patel shows me a photo of his nephew Harshit and Harshit's wife Pooja, both on board the ill-fated flight. We haven't received the bodies. It still feels like maybe they are alive. The plane went down and exploded in a ball of fire in a residential area, mere moments after taking off, killing at least 270 people.
They were arriving, yeah.
The destruction it left behind is seared into Narendra Singh Chauhan's mind. He was one of the first people to rush to the scene. You couldn't even tell if you were picking up bodies or parts of the plane. Everything was burnt, he says.
Yes, ma'am.
He feels broken that so many people were beyond saving.
The families here are also waiting on answers about what went wrong in the plane's final moments, bringing it crashing to the ground. The investigation continues, and the focus is on the flight's data recorder.
Investigators picked through the wreckage this weekend, and authorities confirmed the pilot's final call was Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Local media is reporting he also said thrust not achieved, falling, before all communication was lost. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ahmedabad, India.
As global leaders discuss U.S. tariffs, the impacts keep hitting Canadian companies. Sarah Levitt looks at one family business in Quebec struggling to absorb the costs to stay afloat.
This is all part of an assembly line.
In the family business since 1990, Nicolas Lacasse devotes his time to making these metal caskets. Popular in Quebec and the United States, his company is the only one in Canada to make them. But with steel the primary material, he says he's never had to weather a storm quite like this.
The only way we can avoid the tariff in the United States and get back to the free trade is if my steel come from a U.S. mill.
Like thousands of businesses across Canada, this company has had to seek out the least painful option. Option 1, keep buying Canadian raw steel and face a 50% tariff on the caskets going into the U.S. Option 2, buy American steel, eat the cost of the exchange rate, and pay the 25% counter tariff on the raw material.
Trump administration is charging me tariff, whatever I do, it's like it's trying to struggle me. And when I try to defend myself, it's like Canadians holding my hand, so I cannot even defend myself.
Imports and exports are going down as companies try to minimize the damage. More than 50% of Canadian companies hit by tariffs think they'll have a high to medium impact on business.
We are seeing a large number of companies take all sorts of aggressive steps to either cancel contracts, avoid shipping, or otherwise renegotiate pricing, for example, with their customers or their suppliers.
The cost of these metal caskets can't be passed on to consumers because American metal casket makers aren't raising prices and will poach clients.
Right now, it's only my cash flow that keeps me going, and we need to get help from government at least to avoid that 25% tariff. That's the only way we can make it survive at this point.
Just one of many niche companies making tough decisions as this trade war continues. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Magog, Quebec.
One of Canada's most influential Labour leaders has died. Buzz Hargrove was a champion for the cause of Canadian auto workers, from the shop floor to the president of the union, and a key player in the Canadian auto workers' break from the American UAW. Among others, he led major negotiations with General Motors, Air Canada, and CN Rail. The successor to the CAW, Unifor, said he inspired generations. Buzz Hargrove was 81. Montreal's Canadian Grand Prix is in the books after a big win on the track and for the city as a whole.
We finished at 4 in the morning and people didn't want to leave.
Why changes are coming to the race in spite of its success. A desperate attempt to unite a family before kids are forced into the streets of Lebanon.
Well, I love you. I love you too.
Once holding up a desired adoption.
Get over that block. They will not stop.
And a herd of buffalo take a road trip.
They just started charging in all directions.
What happened? We're back in 2. The longest putt at the U.S. Open all week was a tournament clincher for American golfer J.J. Spaun. That 65-footer on the final hole ensured his first major title. And to cap quite the comeback, he'd bogeyed 5 of the first 6 holes to start the round.
We're in a difficult situation. Win our last 2 games is something that we're confident that we can do that.
The coach of the Edmonton Oilers spelling out the task facing his team. After losing Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final, it trails the Florida Panthers 3-2. Game 6 is Tuesday in Florida as the Oilers try to end Canada's 32-year Cup drought. The streets of Montreal transformed this weekend for the annual Canadian Grand Prix. But the pressure to perform wasn't just on the track. As Quebec Duro reports, the city's eager to maintain its place as a world-class host for the F1 event.
For George Russell in his victory in the Canadian Grand Prix.
Mercedes driver George Russell finished the Montreal Grand Prix exactly where he started it. First place.
It's amazing to be back on the top step, obviously.
His fourth career victory comes at Montreal's biggest tourist draw of the year, which sets the tone for the summer. Tourism Montreal expects this weekend will generate $185 million, about $23 million more than last year.
It's going to be a good year, not necessarily a record year.
Last year's race had its share of challenges. Confusion between organizers, police, and transit made site access difficult. Fans jumped barriers, and rain flooded newly renovated paddocks. Even downtown patios were shut down mid-service by the fire department over bylaw violations. But this year,
we finished at 4 in the morning and people didn't want to leave the place, you know. It was great.
But if some see it as a redemption for the city, others say Montreal's long-term viability as an F1 host is open to question.
We have a contract until 2031 right now, which is good and set in stone.
It's not set in stone. Technically it is, but you know, anything can happen.
F1 hasn't commented on the future of the race, but fans say it belongs in Montreal.
It was a really cool experience. We saw lots of action, lots of driving.
Honestly, kind of teared up when I saw the Ferrari on the track. It was really great.
And we're all very, very happy that the race is here in Montreal.
This is the last year that fans will be able to enjoy the Canadian Grand Prix in June. After more than 40 years, Montreal's event is moving into a new time slot. Starting in 2026, it will be in May to cut down on travel between North American events. Quebec Duro, CBC News, Montreal.
A Halifax couple is racing to adopt loved ones in Lebanon before they end up on the streets.
We just want to bring our kids home. That's it. That's all we want. We don't want anything else.
Their plea for help before it's too late.
The G7 is on, but does it still matter?
I think the problem now, frankly, is you need a level of trust.
What it's meant to accomplish and the new barriers at play.
Plus, why Canada's facing a measles outbreak decades after the virus was eliminated in the country.
If Team Vaccine is competing against faith with God, well, Team Vaccine loses every time.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. Thousands hit the streets in Barcelona to protest mass tourism. Demonstrators squirted water pistols at shops and hotels, taped off the entrances to some of those hotels, and set off smoke bombs near luxury stores. Activists argue that tourism has driven up housing costs, damaged the environment, and eroded local culture. Now to a story of frustration and concern. A Halifax couple has been trying to adopt 3 minors, the cousins of one of them. But the hurdles are high, both here and in the country where the children live, Lebanon. Kayla Hounsell shows us why their fight has reached new levels of urgency.
So this is Anthony and Charbel's room. This will be their
At Victoria Joma's house in Halifax, there are beds, toys, clothes.
Yes, they really love Messi.
Even toothbrushes by the sink, all for children who don't live here.
We just want to bring our kids home. That's it. That's all we want. We don't want anything else. Well, I love you.
I love you too.
The children are her biological cousins, brothers 13-year-old Anthony and 12-year-old Charbel, and their little sister, 6-year-old Teresa. Joma says they've suffered from neglect their whole lives. She's already their legal guardian, but she wants to adopt them and bring them to Canada. A decision solidified by this moment. The 2020 blast that rocked the port of Beirut, killing more than 200 people.
It just came to me and I was like, I have to adopt those kids.
She says she was told she can't adopt the children in Lebanon because their parents are still alive, though they've willingly signed over their rights, and because Joma is gay. But she's spent the last 5 years trying to bring the children to Canada and adopt them here, now with her partner, who's learning Arabic.
I want these kids just as much as she does.
Now, time is running out. The orphanage the boys are in doesn't take care of teens, and they'll have to leave at the end of June. I'm very worried, says the center's director in French. We're going to have street children. It's terrible.
The couple even tried visitor visas and reached out to their MP, Lina Metledge-Diab, who is also now the brand new Minister of Immigration. Joma was told the minister could not help. She also declined an interview request from CBC News, citing privacy concerns.
It is factually and legally untrue that the minister cannot help.
Their lawyer has applied for what's called a temporary resident permit, which Canada issues under exceptional circumstances.
Now it's just trusting that they'll make it home.
The couple says clothing in the closets gives them hope, but that's harder to cling to each time another application is rejected. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Time now to dig deeper into the news shaping our world, and tonight the G7 takes center stage. High security in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains for a high-stakes meeting of some of the world's richest democracies.
Stabilizing the global economy, dealing with issues of supply chain.
But in a world of Donald Trump, tariffs, and trade wars, this G7 summit could prove to be a watershed moment.
How do you respond to the economic crisis that is created by one of its own members within the G7?
Murray Brewster looks at how the G7, created to smooth the world's trade and economy, can survive in an age of disruption.
It's safe to say it's been 50 years of unusual, sometimes awkward moments. The atmosphere goes from carnival-like protests to tense confrontations.
With all of the drama and hoopla, sometimes it is easy to forget where the G7 came from and why it's there. The question we need to ask ourselves today is, after 50 years and in the middle of a global trade war it was set up to avoid, is the G7 still relevant?
It was born amid the economic chaos, rising inflation, and the oil price shocks of the 1970s, where Western leaders felt they had to be seen to be doing something. Canada joined in 1976, turning the G6 into the G7. But once we got to the table, it wasn't certain we would stay, says historian Samuel Baroud.
So basically, the initial practice of having 6 members were it was agreed that it would be a small group. The next year, it has been increased to 7. But already in 1977, the Germans say, oh, do we really need the Italians and the Canadians? Maybe we should return to the G5.
But we did stay.
We're there to try to understand where the devil the world is going.
At the time, the G7 cast itself as the role of steward of the global economy, just as the economic crises of the 1970s gave way to the recession of the early 1980s.
So increasingly, the G7 summit became a public relation campaign, so to say, organized by the main government to say, look, we are in charge, we have solved problems.
We tend to forget the 1980s and early 1990s was a bumpy economic ride. It was the era before free trade fully took hold. The G7, limited in its ability to be able to control the ups and downs, looked for other things to do. That's according to Phil Luck, the former deputy chief economist with the U.S. State Department.
It has changed quite a bit since then. It has moved beyond just the finance track, so to speak. It has focused much more on security issues. And again, to today, it has a sort of robust portfolio of issues.
As globalization took hold, the G7's share of the world economy started to shrink. And then along came the economic powerhouses of China, India, and Brazil. Other organizations, the G20 and BRICS, started to economically overtake and politically overshadow what had been the world's most exclusive club. People started to ask, even back then, is the G7 relevant anymore? And then came the economic collapse of 2008 and the European debt crisis, where the G7 responded with unusual speed and unity.
The priority right now has to be to make sure that those stimulus monies actually get delivered
before we commit to additional actions.
Creon Butler helped organize Britain's G7 priorities for almost a decade in the UK Cabinet Office.
There was actually a period where people wondered within the G7, do we still need the G7? But in fact, it was the Eurozone crisis, which was very fundamentally a G7 crisis, or Europe and other advanced countries, which clearly gave the G7 a continuing purpose. And, you know, in 2022, 23, that the G7 was one of the most important international institutions around as a way of coordinating Western policy among the leading economies of the West.
The G7 brand, the world's richest democracies in action, showed strain under the first argumentative Trump administration. Then came Trump 2.0, the tariffs and the global trade war aimed at friends and foes alike.
I mean, I think the problem now, frankly, is, you know, for all of that to work, you need a level of trust among the members. I question now whether that level of trust is there with the US to make it function in the way it has in the past.
There are some, Creon Butler among them, who believe the G7 is now so hobbled, the areas of cooperation so few with the Trump administration, that allies would be better meeting off in smaller groups without the United States. Canadian Senator Peter Beam disagrees.
Given what has been unleashed by the Trump administration, how can the United States be seen as, to use the Prime Minister's words, a reliable partner?
I think the big challenge for Prime Minister Carney is to ensure that some sort of solidarity is demonstrated. There won't be consensus on everything. There never has been, but at least to have a modicum of a consensual view where the G7 can present itself to the world and say, we had a good discussion on topics X, Y, and Z, and this is what we propose to undertake.
You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards.
In light of recent history, Phil Luck says you can only hope for solidarity and consensus.
That sort of ignores the elephant in the room, which is, you know, a lot of those institutions, the United States, which is, of course, the largest G7 partner, is not really living up to right now. We're both not doing that at home in our attacks on, you know, domestic institutions, on higher education, otherwise. We're not doing that among our G7 partners. We're taking aggressive actions toward those. I think the world will be waiting for a while for us to show the type of moral leadership that I think people are used to.
Mark Carney is set to talk to Donald Trump tomorrow morning before the main G7 Leaders Summit begins, and we'll have extensive coverage from right here in Banff. But for now, Ian, it's back to you in Vancouver.
Thanks, Adrian. Measles cases are still increasing in Canada, heightening concern the outbreak could get worse.
People in the ED were very stressed out, very worried about how contagious these children were to other patients in our department.
Why some vaccination campaigns are falling short. Measles, a highly infectious disease with potentially deadly consequences.
The most common complication is pneumonia, respiratory infection.
Eliminated decades ago, but back now with a vengeance. Around 3,000 cases in Canada so far this year.
I never expected to see measles in my lifetime.
Jennifer Yoon breaks down what's behind the disease's resurgence and why those on the front line say it's going to be difficult to get this outbreak under control.
There are more measles cases in Ontario alone than all of the U.S. combined. Cases climbing in Alberta and Manitoba, over 100 hospitalized. And now, an infant is dead after being infected with measles.
Measles is preventable. It was eliminated from Canada decades ago. So how did we get here, and why is it so hard to end this outbreak? The first thing you should know about measles, it really is one of the most contagious diseases known to humankind. Say I have the measles. Anyone who comes into this room after I'm done yabbering here is at high risk of getting infected, even hours after I leave the room. Unless, of course, everyone was vaccinated.
The end product of medicine's long match with measles.
And if everybody eventually is vaccinated with 2 doses, we feel that we can probably eradicate measles altogether.
It's better than getting the disease and ending up sicker than just a little pinch, so.
And enough of us did get vaccinated. That's how we eliminated the virus almost 30 years ago, meaning we got rid of community spread. But there have always been pockets of people who have not gotten vaccinated, and the virus is burning through those pockets right now. In this current measles outbreak, the embers started flying at a Mennonite wedding in New Brunswick in October. Someone there from abroad had measles, who then infected others. The outbreak fizzled out in New Brunswick, but in Ontario, it just kept going.
Why do we need to screen for measles here? We need to ensure that we give them the right measures in order to protect potential patients that are inside that room.
The epicenter is here in southwestern Ontario. The worst and the most complex cases get referred to this hospital.
We are seeing little babies who are admitted because they have high fevers, they are dehydrated, they need fluid resuscitation. But we are also seeing probably the most common complication is pneumonia, respiratory infection.
This doctor also talks with families about why they're hesitant to get vaccinated. Sometimes it's as simple as reassuring them that this is a safe, effective vaccine. But other times, it's much more complicated, like if their community rejects the shots.
You need to get down to what the cultural issues are, and you might not even get very far if it's really deeply ingrained, especially if the community looks up to its leaders. You may get more from dealing with the leaders.
Anyone who isn't immunized is at risk of contracting the virus. But Ontario's top doctor has said it's been spreading primarily in Mennonite communities, with historically low vaccination rates.
I know our medical officers of health, our frontline nurses, our primary care providers have worked for decades with them to try to provide support, to try to ensure that they take advantage of vaccines. But in some instances, particularly in these communities in the Southwest, the uptake has been exceptionally low.
Mennonites are a hugely diverse group, but many of those who live in southwestern Ontario belong to the old order, horse and buggy, rural, communal.
Because we are a pacifist community, governments haven't always liked us because we're not going to fight for them. And so we have a long history of just asking to be left alone.
This Mennonite pastor is on the progressive end of the spectrum. He's not of the old order and he believes in vaccines. But he also has a good sense why some other congregations reject it.
For some people, it's been set up as a false dichotomy. And so to get vaccinated is a sign of mistrust or misfaith in God. And thus, so if team vaccine is competing against faith with God, well, team vaccine loses every time. There's also a part where, and this is for all of us, when something becomes part of our identity, it becomes very hard. We don't change our identities.
And while it may be hitting this community hard, the measles outbreak isn't just confined to the community.
I sleep like a baby.
Neither is vaccine hesitancy. And with so much misinformation on the internet about the jab, there are fears the number of people vulnerable and sick is only going to rise. Emergency rooms are already adjusting.
I never expected to see measles in my lifetime.
This is a dry run of a procedure that's now become necessary in this children's ER.
Ready?
To avoid a measles exposure in the waiting room, filled with vulnerable kids.
For the first cases, when children were quite unwell, people in the ED were very stressed out. One, very worried about how contagious these children were to other patients in our department and to themselves.
So this is the negative pressure room. This is the measles room.
And each measles case stretches an already overburdened healthcare system even further.
Every single measles case, it's hard for the person who has measles. It's hard for the family. It's hard for the doctor and the nurse that are taking care of that patient. It also involves a whole bunch of extra work for all of the rest of the system. And when they're doing that, they aren't able to provide care for other conditions, other people who need attention.
Those on the front line say it's going to be really difficult to get this outbreak under control. It's going to take a combination approach, talking one-on-one with families that are hesitant to get the jab, talking to those community leaders and establishing that trust, combating misinformation online, and establishing measures so that those who are infected can safely be treated.
That might sound really overwhelming, but experts believe we can take these measures and bring measles under control.
Health Canada says 94% of measles patients have not received 2 doses of the vaccine or don't know their vaccination status. It also says while the outbreak started in New Brunswick, that province hasn't had any newly confirmed cases this year. Canadian music producer Bob Ezrin was honored Friday with the Governor-General Performing Arts Award for Lifetime Achievement. I sat down recently with Ezrin, who's produced albums for Pink Floyd, Kiss, and Lou Reed, to find out what this country means to him.
We've been asking prominent Canadians about, at this moment in time, what it feels like to be Canadian, what it means to be Canadian. This is something you've thought a lot about. So how would you answer that?
So we sit at the nexus, Canada does, at the nexus of European culture, North American, South American culture, and Asian culture. They all intersect in one spot, Canada. And we are made up of nationalities from all over the world who we celebrate. We're not a melting pot. We don't want everybody to be the same. We really celebrate each other's differences and each other's characteristics and qualities. My dad, who was a great scientist, used to say that the strongest systems are heterogeneous systems, and that inherent in a homogeneous system is a weakness. Anyway, so we are a heterogeneous society that celebrates that. We take the best of each other, and it all comes together into this kind of soup of culture that changes from the west to the east every couple of 100 kilometers. There's the Canadian now. Every couple of 100 kilometers, we get a new look, a new taste, a new sound, a new feel, and all of that rich tableau equals Canada. That equals Canada. I don't know any other place on earth where you can go and have that. You know, you go to England, it's England. And yes, there's the Midlands and there's the North and there's the, Southwest and all that stuff, and each of them have their own dialects, but it's England. And it's got English traditions and English things that just imbue the country with its personality and culture. In Canada, we have many Canadas all the way across. And what makes us strong is that all those many Canadas go into one Canada. It's one country with all of these different people all rowing in the same direction, one hopes.
There is much, much more in that interview, and you can hear it next week on The National. But next, this week, a herd of water buffalo run loose in Surrey, BC.
I immediately grabbed my camera and started recording. It appeared that they didn't know what direction to go in.
The strange spectacle in our moment. You're looking at a herd of water buffalo seen here standing in the middle of a road in Surrey, British Columbia, after they escaped from a farm and took a stroll through the city. The chaotic and sometimes hilarious scene played out a few days ago, and tonight the tale of their runaway misadventure makes our moment.
They just started charging in all directions. I was in my kitchen, and one of my girls, she came in and she said, "There's buffalo running up the street." We ran out the door. I immediately grabbed my camera and started recording. They will not stop. There were so many of them. It appeared that they didn't know what direction to go in. They escaped from Tesfa Farms, booked it up the highway. They went through a frog pond underneath the bridge, and then they just kept running westbound. When you do the drive, it's quite the little jaunt there. The farm owners immediately pulled up with the truck, and they had some gates. The community came together and worked really hard to secure the buffalo. They were very clueless, and there was a lot of laughter and people filming. It was a great day.
I know you have a couple of questions, right? Like how much, is water buffalo milk? It's $7.50 a liter. And yes, indeed, you can order it from that farm and other places where they raise water buffalo. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. I hope you can join me weeknights on CBC News Network at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Good night.